Hello folks, welcome to the Kubernetes new contributor orientation. So before we start off, we have a few housekeeping items. So firstly, as you heard, this meeting is being recorded and will be published on YouTube. All meetings in the Kubernetes community abide by a code of conduct, which you can find at the link at the bottom of this slide. It basically sums up to please be respectful to the speaker and the fellow attendees, and generally be excellent to each other. Please use the chat to ask questions and have discussions through this call. There will be a Q&A section at the end, and we encourage you to ask questions verbally if you would like to. A copy of these slides is available on GitHub, and we will post the link in the show notes. Note that on GitHub, the slides are provided as a PDF. So the links in the decks are not clickable as displayed on GitHub, but if you download the presentation, they should be clickable. All right, so the purpose of this meeting is to orient you in the Kubernetes community. That means giving you a sense on how the community works and what your part is or could be within it. So we will start off with a presentation to convey information about the community. And then we will have a Q&A section where you're welcome to ask any question you would like me to answer. Hearing all the questions that you ask can benefit anyone watching the recordings. So if you do ask questions verbally, it would be better. So I'm Matthias. I will be giving the main presentation. I'm a SIG-Node reviewer and I've been contributing to the Kubernetes project for more than 8 years. Now let's dive in. So the Kubernetes community is a very big group of people who work together to create and maintain the Kubernetes project. Here are some numbers to give you a sense for just how big the Kubernetes community is. We track data about our contributors via GitHub and a few other contributor tools. And we collect them in a tool called DevStats. This is basically a big database of information about Kubernetes contributions, and you're welcome to explore it yourself. So these stats were pulled in July, and at that time we had almost 97,000 contributors who had made over 4.6 million contributions. And all these contributions are reviewed by just 8,000 people with reviewer privileges. We'll talk more about what a contribution might mean and who a reviewer might be in a little later in this presentation. Here is another visualization of how large our community is and how fast it has grown. This graph is from the 2023 Kubernetes project journey report and shows how we have grown for Kubernetes beginning in 2014 to today. We basically grew from 0 to 8,000 contributors in 10 years. Now, before we dive deeper into the community, some of you may be unfamiliar with what Kubernetes is and what it does. So Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration tool. Open source means that it's made by people around the world, some of whom are paid to work on it, but many of whom are volunteers. And the code of the Kubernetes software is publicly available under an open source license that describes exactly who, when, and how the software and its source code can be used. And the cool thing is that Kubernetes orchestrate containers. So let's go over what that means. So businesses have many applications they need to run. For example, they may have a payroll application, logistics application, or a company website. These applications need to run somewhere. So businesses also have a lot of computers to run these applications on. Kubernetes enables business to say, hey, Kubernetes, here is the computers I have, and here is the apps I need to run on. You can describe various levels of details about how that application needs to run or the hardware it might need, and Kubernetes will run it on a machine for you. It also provides some handy functionality for managing the application while it's running. For example, it can provide some help for the process of updating the application to a new version. Exactly how it does all this magic is what Kubernetes contributors work to maintain and improve every day. So let's learn more about how contributors build Kubernetes by exploring our community structure. So Kubernetes is an open source project within the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, or CNCF. And the CNCF is a non-profit organization with the state mission to make cloud native ubiquitous. To that end, they support many open source projects that enable companies to run applications in the cloud. The CNCF provides a variety of guidance and support to its projects, including legal support, code of conduct, help with logos and copyright, and more. The pyramid below the CNCF represents the structure of the Kubernetes community. At the top, interfacing the most with the CNCF and presiding over various topics that affects the entire community and project is the steering committee. This is a body of 7 members who are elected by Kubernetes organization members. We'll go over more about what an org membership means shortly. With a project so large, there are many different concepts within the project that needs unique skills and knowledge. For example, the way the Kubernetes nodes, where workloads are run, do what they do is one area of expertise. Meanwhile, the challenge of writing and maintaining the Kubernetes docs need folks with different expertise. People who work on specific areas of the project gather together in what are called special interest groups, or SIGs. These break up the work of building and maintaining the Kubernetes project into more sensible chunks. Sometimes, however, there are big areas that need attention that are both very significant and cut across SIGs. Sometimes these are split into what we call working groups. A working group is generally temporary, created to address a specific issue, and then meant to disappear as a focus group once that topic is sufficiently addressed by ongoing SIG work. A defining characteristic of workgroups is that they generally don't own any code or feature, at least not in the long term. Working groups work either is or will be owned by one or more SIGs by the time the workgroup dissolves, unless that is the working group becomes a SIG, which happens occasionally. But even the work of one SIG can be quite broad in scope. There can be hundreds of contributors into a single SIG. So SIGs further break down their work into sub-projects. Currently, there are 24 SIGs, 7 working groups, and 3 committees in the Kubernetes community. We can further group the SIGs and working groups by their scope. So some groups operate as a project level, and all other work in the project depends on them. Some groups work at the horizontal level, meaning that they have technical focus that is both deep and broad, and on core functionality from a project architecture perspective. Vertical groups have a deep specific technical focus that depend on the work of the horizontal groups. And of course, both horizontal and vertical groups depend on the work of the project groups. Here is another diagram of all the SIGs and working groups currently active in the Kubernetes project. To call out just a few, SIG release and docs are groups whose work might be familiar with, and they operate at the project scope. Although you may not have known it, you have probably encountered the work of SIG API machinery and SIG auth before. We consider these to be horizontal groups. And in the vertical groups, you can also find lots of familiar concepts like autoscaling, scheduling, networking, and node. You might want to refer back to this diagram later as you're exploring groups to contribute to. And feel free to ask questions about these during the Q&A or even in the chat now. But for now, we are going to move along to talk more about the contribution. So Now that you know the basics on how the community is structured, let's start exploring where you fit into all of this. So first off, let's briefly explore why you might want to contribute. There are many reasons people contribute to the Kubernetes community. For some, their job requires contributing, but there are also contributors who work with the community on a purely volunteer basis. These are also those who are somewhere in the middle, where their work needs them to contribute sometimes, but they also do extra work for the community outside of their job. So why do so many people contribute without getting paid? They might want to grow specific skills for their resume, or maybe they want to meet people working in the industry. Maybe they just think the technology is cool and they want to dive deep and help build it. Or sometimes folks just need being part of a community of people all working towards similar goals. You should think carefully about why you want to contribute, and as you get more engaged with the community, you'll get more out of it if you can clearly tell the people what you want. If others know who you are, what you want, and what you can do, they can more easily help you to find work, opportunities, and connections that will most benefit you. Regardless of why you're interested in contributing, you're probably wondering what it means to be a contributor. To answer the question of what it means to be a contributor, let's first explore what might count as a contribution. Well, in fact, any work you do to support the Kubernetes project is a welcome and valued contribution to the community. I know that sounds broad and vague, but this is very important. There is a lot of work contributors do behind the scene to make this project run. And it's certainly not all writing code and making pull requests on GitHub. So let's see some example. Here are a few you might have thought of and some you might not have. For example, did you start off by posting a hello message in the Kubernetes new contributors channel in the Kubernetes Slack? Well, if you did, that's a contribution. And have you commented on an issue or a proposal for a new feature to share your opinions or thoughts? That's also a contribution. And even watching or attending this meeting right now is also a contribution. So congrats on your new contribution. As a community, we try our best to acknowledge and appreciate contributions to the community in many forms. But if so many vague and varied things can count as a contribution, then what does it mean to be a contributor? So there are various levels of being a contributor. You might remember your first slide where we mentioned contributors and reviewers. So this slide here dives into more details into what those terms mean. Starting at the bottom, anyone can be a contributor. If you do any of the things mentioned on the previous slide and more, you are already a contributor. If you contribute to the community in any way, then you might be what we call a non-member contributor. This means that you puppet in the community and contribute, likely in small, disconnected ways. But if you want to really get involved in the community, you might want to go for org membership. An org member refers to a member of the Kubernetes organization on GitHub. So being an org member gives you higher privileges to interact with the tools that we use to do our work, like the probot in GitHub, which help us apply labels and configure issues on GitHub commands. Having org membership is a sign that you are an active, engaged contributor who intends to contribute in more structured way within the community. You are not just picking up a single issue or asking a one-off question. You're probably developing expertise in certain area of the project. You might be contributing to one or more sub-projects or SIGs in consistent, measurable ways. So you'll be ready to become a Kubernetes org member when the contributors you work with regularly are familiar with your work and will vouch for you as a sponsor on your request for membership. Next, Beyond becoming an org member, there are increasing levels of trust, ownership, and responsibility that you could choose to pursue. Once you've been engaged in an area for a while, you might have enough knowledge to help review contributions or pull requests for other contributors. Eventually, you might be trusted enough to have the final say on whether some code is merged or a contribution is accepted and displayed on something like the Kubernetes.io website. Then you would be an approver. And if you become a strong expert in a specific area, who is highly trusted and regarded for your expertise, you might take on new responsibilities. You might become the person others come with questions, and you might lead triage sessions or other work in the area. At that point, you might be a sub-project owner. If you are an expert who starts leading things in that area, you might also take on responsibility for various resources within that area and how they relate to other parts of the project. For example, you might take responsibility for the README file defining a whole subproject, which is where people would go to learn about it. And you might become the contact person who triage requests from other parts of the project. At that point, you might be a subproject lead. And if you are leading a whole subproject, that's a considerable chunk of work within a SIG. You're probably interacting and collaborating with leads of other subprojects, and you're probably developing a pretty strong sense of the mission, objectives, and ongoing work of the SIG as a whole. At that point, you may become a chair or a tech lead for an entire special interest group. If you remember of our community structure diagram from earlier, you might wonder if becoming a member of the steering committee would be a next step. But steering committee is an elected position. And you can actually run for steering at any point once you are an org member. But if you will be more likely to get elected, the better other contributors know you and your work. This ladder might seem like the one true path in contribution. But I want to remind you that there is no single path for your contributor journey. Most contributors end up contributing in multiple areas of the project. Some people even develop ownership in different SIGs at the same time. Just because you are learning and contributing in one SIG doesn't mean you can check out another. Remember, most contributors are at least partially volunteers. And almost everyone contributing it is doing it because they love it. So look around, find what you love, and do it. Now you know the basic on how the community is structured and how you might fit into it. As we've established, you might already be a non-member contributor. But if you want to do more to contribute, let's explore where you can start. The fastest way to learn and make yourself useful will be to find a SIG that suits your interest and just start getting involved there. That might not mean immediately picking up an issue and writing code. Often, getting involved means attending meetings, reading notes and existing issues, and just generally starting to get a feel on what the group does. The primary ways that the Kubernetes community communicates are the Kubernetes Slack and the k-dev mailing list. So make sure you join these as soon as possible if you want to contribute. So let's explore how you can learn about a SIG so you can find groups that are doing work relevant for your interests. So where can you start learning? First, check out the Kubernetes community repo on GitHub. In this repo, you can find folders containing information about each SIG and working group. When you click on a SIGs folder in the community repo, it will show you that folder's README. At the top of this file, you will find a brief summary of what this SIGs focus area and likely a link to their more detailed team charter. This will give you a broad, high-level idea of what the SIG does. Below the summary of the group, you will find information about when the group meets. Attending meetings is often a great way to learn more about who is in the group, what they are currently working on, and how they do their work. Attending meetings is a great way to start getting to know the group of people you are interested in working with, and for them to get to know you. You'll also find information about the SIG's leadership. So most SIGs have both a concept of chairs and technical leads. These leaders are at the same level of trust and responsibility, but likely own different types of tasks for supporting the SIG. Chairs tend to do more project management work, while tech leads tend to do more architectural leadership, like managing repos and certain kinds of technical decisions and processes. Each SIG defines what this role means to them, and each leader will be a little bit different. You will also find contact information for the SIG. Most SIGs in Kubernetes do a lot of asynchronous communication in their channel within the Kubernetes Slack, which you can join by visiting slack.ksa.io. Each SIG also has a mailing list. Important announcements for all contributors to a SIG will go out to the mailing list. The mailing list will also be invited to all SIG meetings via Google Calendar. You'll also find information about where to find issues and PRs related to that SIG, and other information like the GitHub teams that are part of that SIG. Also, every contributor should join the Kubernetes Dev Google group, also known as K-Dev. This mailing list is a primary communication channel for important contributor informations. Checking out each SIG's folder will show you lots of information about that specific SIG, but what if you want to find information about all the SIG's meetings? Well, the community maintains a contributor website at kates.dev, and within this website, we have a page that with informations about all the public community meetings. So go to kates.dev/calendar, and you will see a list of all the meetings. Clicking on one will bring up a new window for you to add the meetings to your own calendar. This is a great way to get a sense for which groups meet at times that may work for you. Now you know how the community is structured, where you could fit in, and how to start learning more. You might also want to know if there is any actively open work you could pick up and become part of. So regularly we'll reach out to the SIG leads and ask them to share any current opportunity they would like some new contributors to know about. So on this slide, you can see evergreen opportunities. These are opportunities for work that are basically always available, or which are available on a regular cadence. So evergreen opportunities are great because they represent work that always needs doing and which is likely well defined. But a lot of work is one-off style, an issue that needs fixing or work on a new feature. Many of these types of tasks require certain skills to complete. You might see an open request that requires a skill you want to develop and think you could pick it up and learn. But that's not a good idea. If the task was easy for someone already in the SIG to do, it probably wouldn't be an open request. Many requests with skills requirements are open because no one in the community has those skills, so they can't teach them. Or they may be open because the people who do have those skills are too busy and they can't pick up more work or they cannot help others. So if you're coming to the Kubernetes community with existing skills, like certain programming language or specific technical skills like Linux networking or cloud providers, this task could be a great opportunity for you to contribute to the community. So this is another slide that calls for help for certain skills. So if you are familiar with the tools or skills listed, please reach out to the appropriate SIG Slack channel. Okay. I think we can skip to this one. And okay, so this was a lot of information today, and this is just the orientation meeting. When you join your first SIG meeting, you're probably going to be overwhelmed. A lot of SIG meetings exist for active existing contributors to collaborate with each other on active in progress work. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't join as a new contributor. You will learn faster by joining these meetings and watching the process in action. But it might mean that you will feel left out and lost for the first few times. Let me see your questions. Yeah, Shubra. So for many issues, there are multiple PRs open, but the issue is not yet resolved. Good first issue is hard to find where there are no PRs open. Right. And are we covering it here? Let me see. So actually, maybe I can talk about like the good first issue trap. Yes. So a common contribution pitfall is falling into the good first issue trap. So the scenario goes something like it. You are a new prospective contributor and you are excited to make your mark in the community. So you find a good first issue and you think, yeah, great. I will claim this issue, write some code, and I will have contributed to Kubernetes. But once you pick up that good first issue, how are you going to complete it? So I mentioned earlier that the Kubernetes community uses tools like Probot to help managing issues. So are you familiar with the bot? It's fine if you're not. So maybe you will just start writing code. And those reviewers, approvers, and owners we mentioned will appear to make sure the issue has the right labels and stuff on it. So once you have written your code, you will also need to get their attention to review the PR. And this is the problem. Remember, there is a lot more contributors than there are reviewers. And it's like 20 or 30 times more contributors than reviewers. So when you make your first PR, reviewers like me or approvers like others will be assigned. But if there are issues in your code, well, you will have to go back and forth with the reviewer to have your comments addressed. And are you comfortable using comments and pull requests to see the work through to completion? Yeah. Also, most good first issue that get picked up by new non-members contributors never make it to completion. So this is what you're pointing out. The code never gets checked in. And then the community has all these tail issues and PRs sitting around for work we really needed done. But the person got lost and ended up abandoning the contribution halfway. And this is because, again, the person who wrote the code doesn't know enough the reviewers to poke them, and the reviewers don't know the contributor. So they are not sure that this person is serious enough to bring it to completion. And this is how you end up with people not finishing their PRs and having open PRs like this. Yeah. So as we say here, the best way to have this PR being finished is to join the SIG meetings, make friends there, and once people start to know you, they will be more likely to review your PR and help you to make it to completion. So yeah. Unfortunately, this is a situation I have like I've seen a lot. So yeah, you have to make friends. You have to be patient. I mean, I do this outside of my work, so I don't have like many hours to review code, and I'm sure it's the same for other people. So yeah, that's difficult. But I would say in general, rather than taking a good first issue just because there is one is not the best way of finding motivation. I think you should find an issue that you have or that you found or that you are really interested into fixing and just stick with it and make it to the end. Yeah. Do you have any more questions? I think the slides are just mostly finished because, yeah. So the Kubernetes community is a big, diverse place. It's diverse in terms of people, skills, technologies. So it will take you some time to find the place that clicks with you. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Anyway, regardless of which area you explore, we need your help and we are glad you are here. And this is some resources and links that you can check. And I think we can continue with the other questions. So do you have any other questions? Okay.
Hey, thanks for walking us through the slides. It's really helpful, and the good first issue part is like I was only looking at the good first issue and trying to figure out if my skills match with the requirements, then I could probably go for it. But what you said makes sense. Uh, so I have joined a couple of SIG meetings in last 2 weeks. But what ends up happening, it is very overwhelming because I don't know the area, and they are ultimately talking about a very technical uh, 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 some project or some task that they are working on. So and I have seen a lot of documentation, so sometimes also I feel lost, like which one should I follow. So do you have any advice there, or like as a new contributor, how do I go forward?
Okay. So I think what is very important is which part you are interested in. Is it more I don't know what's your experience. So I personally I contribute to Signode
Okay.
because I I like the container life cycle.
Okay.
So the Signode is really about it. Like so I the pod life cycle was an area that I wanted to improve. So I created a new probe and all of this. And yeah, so I think what is important is find like which area you are the most interested in, and then you have to join the meetings. I mean,
Mhm.
it's as you said, like people are not talking to you. They are talking between the different approvers and the reviewers, and like
Yeah.
for the new people, they are just like here getting to know some people.
Okay.
Eventually, if you have like specific questions, you could edit the meeting. You know,
Mhm.
there is the meeting document, and you
Yeah.
can propose a new subject. And once you join and your subject is taking for this session, you will have like few minutes to talk about your subject. So it's it requires some courage, but generally like people are really friendly once you know them. So I mean,
Got it.
I don't know. I think the most important is trying to find an area that you feel comfortable. Also, maybe when I started contributing to the Kubernetes project, I chose a SIG that was like smaller in size because like SIG node is one of the biggest ones. But I found SIG testing to be very interesting to learn because there are only meetings every 2 weeks when there are topics. The meetings are small because there are not a lot of contributors there. And that's an area where like anybody can help. So you find a test that fails, propose a fix. Everybody is happy if a test is fixed or that is less flaky. So maybe that's the good that's a good starting point. You
Yeah.
try to check the end-to-end tests, find some tests that are flaky, and while you are fixing the test, you will discover the area of the project that this test covers. So you will learn more about the project. And since the SIG meeting is like smaller, you will have like more interaction with people. So you will feel more comfortable. And then later on, you can join a bigger SIG. So maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, sounds like a good idea. Thank you. Yeah.
But anyway, welcome.
Yeah. Thanks.
I don't know, Hussein or Lucas, do you have some questions or remarks?
No, for now. Thanks, Matthias.
Cool, cool. So if there is no more question, cool. Thank you, Hussein. So anyway, please join the Slack if you haven't done so. Just say hi to the new contributor channel. There is also a channel for PR reviews if you need, and channels for all the SIGs. So yeah, join those and start talking to us. I mean, we always like new folks, new contributors. So welcome to the community. I will close this meeting now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Goodbye.
much. Bye bye.
Thank you.